Palmer, what are you doing?
No, is it started?
Yes. No, I'm just gonna hold my phone here the whole time.
Start again. We're doing it in one take.
Mr. Palmer, what are you doing?
Okay, so what I'm going to do what's called a PhD, and I don't need to explain that to you guys. You know what it is. And the topic that I've chosen is what I want to look at what happens at the end of Year 12, which is what you guys are here. I want to look at how this HSC really works and what it measures, and whether or not there's a better way of doing it. Because for a long time, I've been watching people go through the HSC, and I think it's a pretty terrible system, and it tests all the wrong sorts of things. And what people in education have been talking about for a while is, look, you know, we need exams, obviously. We need to know how good people are in terms of what they're suitable to do in the rest of their lives. But what we're really more interested in doing is working out what their general skills are. So these are known in the syllabus as general capabilities. They're various skills that you're supposed to develop right throughout your schooling. Things like literacy, numeracy, they're the basic ones. But other things like intercultural understanding, you know, being able to understand different cultures, being able to think critically and problem solve, looking at, you know, being able to collaborate and do those sorts of things and work with other people. So my research is going to look at how we could possibly, I suppose, find out where students are with those skills and how we might measure them and then use them. For universities to say, okay, you know, we know this student is really good at collaborating. We know they've got really good critical thinking skills. It doesn't matter if they didn't do so well in their history test. Okay, we can see how they're going on all these other measures. And that those measures wouldn't be really stressful to go through. There wouldn't be these huge tests and exams at the end that cause so much unnecessary angst for you guys.
And so university is nothing like this.
No.
As well, what the students are experiencing now, it's nothing what they'll experience in university.
No.
University is much kinder in a lot of ways. And the universities are changing. So it'll be a really interesting time too, sir, because they are changing a lot at the moment with all the redundancies and everything else that's happening.
Yeah, and one of the things that happens is, I've noticed as a teacher, is because of your whole schooling really builds up to this ATAR, doesn't it? And so teachers start to teach so you can get a good ATAR, so you can get a good mark at the end. It doesn't really show, you know, maybe you have all of these really great skills and these really great capabilities that we just don't report on. We don't acknowledge.
It's not a measure of you or a measure of the teacher.
And we don't maybe even try and encourage those to grow. So yeah, that's what my research is going to be about. So any comments about that from anyone else?
That's a great idea, sir.
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah,
it's a big thing. So the name of my research is Transforming the Gateway, which means like transforming this sort of narrow passage that you've got to go through at the end of Year 12 into something much better. And look, there's other people working on it, but you know, I want to be part of that work. Now, I suppose, you know, for this assignment I've got to do, which you're helping me with, thank you very much, is I've got to tell you a little bit about my own background and like why maybe I have some skills in this. Rianne, did you have any questions about my own background? Don't just put it on me. Show Rianne. Yeah, she's here.
What did you first have an interest in terms of education?
Okay, so I used to work for a long time in I had lots of different jobs before I became a teacher. One of the jobs I had just before I became a teacher is I was working with homeless people and people who were in homeless shelters. And I was seeing a lot of really distressed lives, and young people, especially young people who are homeless with mental health issues and with particularly drug and alcohol issues. Mostly that was the cause of it, and then mental health along with that. And I began to think, all right, it's terrible to say, but honestly, I just felt like it's too late. You know, something needed to be done earlier. and now we're just putting bandages on people and trying to make them sober up or whatever it is. But really, if we're going to do anything for people's lives and do anything really significant, the time to do it is when they're younger. So that's when I thought, okay, I want to go back into the education system and do teaching, because I think it's at that point that we can really make the difference. Because once you become an adult, you know, a lot of things are already ingrained, and it's so much harder to change. Heidi? Yep.
So what made you choose high school teaching then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I remember at the interview when I was like being asked about what sort of teacher I want to be, they said, "Oh, would you consider primary school teaching?" I didn't even think about it. I thought, no, high school teaching. But actually, I think now primary school teaching would have been really good, and maybe there was just a bit of intellectual arrogance that I wanted to like do like more complicated things. But actually, it's completely wrong, because primary school teaching is much more complex than high school teaching, and the earlier you go, in my experience, the more profound the difference you can make, and also the bigger the bigger the problem in a way with young children, and the more intelligently you need to address that problem. Yeah, so I've been obviously in education for quite a while, and that's what's led me to this point. And I think I have a lot of experience. I've worked at a lot of different schools, seen a lot of different teachers, seen a lot of different types of students. I used to work in very remote schools, with very few students who were all Indigenous, and worked in the outback, worked in really low socioeconomic areas, worked in schools with high refugee populations, worked in schools like this where, you have enormous privilege and very high socioeconomic backgrounds, worked in selective high schools. I'm looking at it from a whole lot of different angles, which I think are really useful and will help me in my research. So, Rianne, did you have any other questions? Good, excellent. So what I've asked my students now to do for this assignment is, in pairs, each of them are going to just talk about one quality they think Mr. Palmer might have or might not have that will either assist him or create problems for him in his research. So, Bianca, if you can use the camera now and point on pairs, and we'll just see what they have to say to help me sort of understand myself better and how I can, how I should think about like my preparedness to do this PhD. We'll start with Roger and Alison.
He has a really good sense of humour. It makes learning a lot more enjoyable, and we think it might help him with his research because it's more like open-minded.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks. Sometimes I even think I'm funny, which is great. All right, so Allegra and Amelia, what do you think?
We think he's really honest, and he gives us a lot of constructive criticism, and that allows us to improve.
And it helps our learning because it gives us honest feedback which we know we can apply to make ourselves better.
Do you think that will help me in my study?
Of course.
Oh, it's nice of you to say so. Mr. Smith, have you got any insights into what might help me or be a problem for me?
As far as the quality goes, calmness. So you're not someone who's flustered by any situation. So if something's difficult, we know, even amongst students we see a problem becomes difficult and we start to freak out and we stress, and it's unnecessary because it stops us completing the task. So ability to remain calm under pressure allows you to push through tasks, and I think that will help you for this large journey that you appear to be going on.
It is, it's a large journey. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ella and Shari, can you think of anything good or bad that I need to be aware of?
Yeah, we think that Mr. Palmer's really equal and fair in the way that he approaches situations in teaching.
Yeah.
He's always encouraging us and other young students to, take action for injustices in the world.
Yeah. Well, a big part of my research is really I want whatever system we put in place to be much fairer. A lot of people talk about the unfairness now of the HSC system. It discriminates against people. So yeah, that's a big motivator for me. I'm glad you guys can see that I do actually believe in that, and it comes through. Thanks, guys. Angelina and Grace.
We said your relatability, possibly like stemming from your years of experience in like many different environments, allows you to relate to like any kind of student and like help them with whatever they need,
Yeah.
which is a really good quality.
I feel like it stands out from a lot of teachers as well, who tend to like just go on with their job, and like it just, yeah, it makes learning way more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think relatability is going to be really important, because when you do research, you've got to actually go out and talk to people and interview people and see, you know, what's going on for them. So I will have to meet a lot of new people and hopefully get them to be able to talk to me. So yeah, thanks for that. Brianna and Bianca, you might have to turn the camera on yourself there, Bianca.
No, it's okay.
No, can we do it together?
What did you want to talk about?
What did we say? Empathy.
We said empathy.
What is empathy?
Well, I think that Mr. Palmer is a very empathetic person, and that obviously would help with his research, because you can't understand someone's like situation. Like, he couldn't see, if he wasn't empathetic, then he wouldn't see the injustice of the HSC system. And I think that his PhD is going to do a lot of great work.
Yes, I agree.
Thanks for that. Actually, that idea of empathy is something we've been talking a lot about, needing to have as a researcher. You really need to put yourself in other people's shoes. So I'm glad you can see that. And Megan and Rianne?
It's very zen and just like chill about everything.
Yeah, and that kind of, that allows him to be able to take on any situation and come up with a solution to any problem.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think you guys are both two very zen people in the class, so maybe it takes one to know one, so thank you. All right, well, great guys. Thanks for the wrap. Just before we finish though, can you see any real problems for me in my research, like big holes in my personality, which are going to be, or in my preparation or in my skills? Can you see anything that I'm really going to have to work on? No? Yeah, Megan?
Tends to just walk out of the room without saying anything, kind of mid-sentence, and then he'll come back like 10 minutes later like nothing happened. So
You don't do that.
It's a bit problematic.
Stay in the room.
It's funny though, so it's fine. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Well, I've got a long journey ahead of me, as you guys do as well. I'm about to start on your studies, and I know you guys have great capacities too. So let's all go and learn together, hey? All right. Thanks, Bianca.